Bet on your tiny, tiny castle. Bet on your tiny, tiny dream. Bet on your tiny, tiny businesses. Bet on, bet on, bet on, bet on you. Bet on, bet on, bet on, bet on you. Why you bet on strangers? Strangers pass on through. You should bet on neighbors, cause neighbors bet on you. Your tiny, tiny barbershop.
This is the first episode of I Like My Tea Sweet with Theron Synpe. First off, thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Now, what brought you to ConNECKtedTOO?
What brought me to ConNECKtedTOO? I was employed at the city of Charleston, and artists, the Connected team reached out to the city looking for city involvement, backing, participation in connected work. At the time, I think they were being considered for an arts grant, which would be the seed to germinate ConNECKtedTOO. And being that I was with the city's Office of Minority Business Management of Business Enterprise, I was asked by the mayor to come and listen to what they were doing to see if there was any way I would be able to assist them. That's how I got involved. And I always thought that the arts were colors and shapes and sculptures, paintings and photographs and that kind of thing. And in 2001, I was asked to work with a group of artists that did visual kind of art. They were doing a project connected with Spoleto called the Borrow House Project. And as I listened to those folks talk about what they were doing, my first expression was, "That's art?" And I found out later on it was art, but people were doing activism, social justice themes, that's art. To the artists. As a matter of fact, there was one artist, Suzanne Lacey, was from California, and she talked to me about a performance that she had where she assembled 200 people on the top deck of a parking garage in Oakland, California, and filmed the conversations they were having. It was listening to her. We were sitting in Saffron's restaurant on East Bay Street, and I actually looked Suzanne Lacey in the eye and said, "That's art?" And she said it was. Just as I did, I think that there are a number of other people surprised to understand what's considered art nowadays. And it's not a slight to anyone. I mean, I'm not uneducated or anything, but it's just we all can learn. And so I'm still in the process of learning, understanding, participating in social justice or activism as art. I can't draw. I can't paint in the lines, even with the little numbers in there and everything. I can't do that, but I have other interests and I have other talents and skills, and I found out that I could use them in this endeavor as art as social justice and activism.
That's a great answer, because the next question I was going to ask you was, how did you learn your art?
Yes, an ongoing process. I'll tell you what I did find out one. My son, who is now, he's born in 1977, so that would make him 43 now. My son was in the first grade. We were living in Columbia at the time. I was managing a radio station in Columbia. And his teacher gave them a cardboard cutout of an oval shape like an egg, just plain old cardboard. And they were to color that egg as a project for the class, first grade. So he's sitting there, didn't have an idea what to do. So I just told him, I said, well, Quran, make some stripes around the egg, and each stripe you come into, make them about 1 inch wide, and each stripe you come to, just change the color, make it another color. So basically he had a cardboard shaped like an egg that had a rainbow in it, and he won first prize. And I thought it was just something simple. It wasn't a house, it wasn't a picture, it wasn't a person. It was just the choice of colors and this pattern around the egg. Whatever kind of competition they could have in first grade for an Easter egg painting thing, So he won first prize. And that really opened my eyes too, because I was just trying to give my son an idea of how to get his project done, to turn it in Monday. This was like a Saturday or Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
And to me it was just simple. Just paint some colors in a shape around the egg, the same shape of the egg, and then just keep coming in like a dartboard. So here again, in a simple kind of way, I understood that, okay, well, hold on a second. It's more than a picture of a flower. It's more than a picture of a person. The blending of colors is being looked at. When you stand up in the gallery and you say, well, why did they think that one was such a wonderful picture and everything? So I'm learning, I'm an adult, but I'm learning that, okay, It was the colors, it was the blending of the colors, that really was the outstanding thing about the art rather than a picture of sunflowers. You know what I'm saying? Or roses. So here again, learning experience about art.
How did you learn about your history?
About my history? History was always my favorite subject. Not good in math, even though I did it. Didn't have the best head in the world for science, but I always loved to read. I mean, I spent back in the days when I was a child, I left the house. It was either to go to the library, which was at Bogart and Cracky Street, the original Dart Library, the library on King Street, now it's called the Dart Library. Well, during the days of segregation, the library for black folks was at Cracky and Bogart Streets, and it was called the Dart Library. So the Dart Library was like my second home. I leave there, maybe go to Harmon Field, something like that for a minute, but I just spent so much time in the library. So I love to read, and through that, you'd be surprised, it just takes you to different places, you experience different things, you start to understand things. And then I started to read about the city I was living in, and what was unique about it. So all of a sudden I developed this real passion to try to learn, about the city of Charleston. And also I'm a Civil War buff. I treasured my trip around the battlefield at Manassas, because I stand there and I just imagine the history. So it just, developed a hunger in me to learn as much as I could about the history of the town, the history of the city.
Now, I know you said it's an ongoing experience with learning about art.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like learning about Charleston art?
It's funny that you put it that way, Charleston art. Let me say it like this. You say Charleston art, but I've learned that there are artists in Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
You used to think that I'd have to go to New York to Soho or someplace to find real artists, but I started finding out 25 years ago that there are artists in Charleston, and there's some good artists in Charleston from all aspects of the art.
So the next question is going to be about embracing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you said the ongoing experience with your art, learning about art, but what about trying to embrace your art as an activist, socialist?
Well, activism or social justice, art as activism or art as social justice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right up my alley, because when I found out that I could be an artist in that way, I started to feel a little better about it, the whole concept of whether or not I can be described as an artist, that kind of thing. I've always been very, very conscious of the way we as a people are treated, have been treated, being able to dream, and achieve our dreams and that kind of thing. My first year down at Tuskegee, I was 17 because I was 16 when I went to college. I remember when the kids at South Carolina State got shot, and that was that February in 1968, and it just bothered me, I mean, I was in the cafeteria at Tuskegee, and everybody started, man, you hear what happened in South Carolina? You hear what happened in South Carolina last night? And here I am from South Carolina, and I saw it, and it just bothered me tremendously. And that same evening, I went and joined the coordinating committee for some things that we were trying to get done down the school at Tuskegee. So as it ended up, I ended up almost getting put out for being involved in that, because for convocation, the Board of Trustees were there on campus. Tuskegee, one of the more prominent historically black colleges and universities, and people talk about Booker T. Washington and said he was Uncle Tom or whatever. Booker T. Washington knew how to get the money to get the school to be what he wanted it to be. And Tuskegee was a very good educational institution in terms of the level from the black colleges and universities. I mean, you had Fisk, you had Howard, schools like that, and Morehouse. Well, Tuskegee was right up there with them during that time. So we got all these folks here, the CEO from Coca-Cola, the member of the House of Representatives representing Cleveland, Ohio, and we locked them up in the guest house at the campus because we wanted certain things to change, And the night that happened was the day that Martin Luther King got killed, so April 4th, 1968. And here I am running around the campus at night with these people locking up the campus, putting liquid soda in the locks and everything, just being disruptive. And I was standing there when the general and the Alabama State Troopers and everybody came, as far down the road as you can see the headlights. And the Alabama State Troopers had stopped on the way to Tuskegee, picked up their friends, So you had one guy in a police uniform in the car and two good old boys with weapons who weren't the police also in the car, you know? And they would just, you know, they'd stop saying, come on, we're going down to Tuskegee to whip heads, because Macon County, Alabama, where Tuskegee is 8-1 blacks to white. There are 8 blacks for every 1 white person in Macon County, Alabama. So a little town of 11,000 people. So you imagine most of them are black. So they were getting ready to come down there. And it was a scary night. You know, they invaded us, and the next thing you know, they told everybody, go home, take everything with you, because we don't know who we're going to let back in. And I was the last person from Charleston to get called to come back to school. And it was a trip because my daddy had to call to say, well, all my son's friends already got the telegram to come back. How come my son isn't coming back? And anyway, I got a telegram that night and went back. But I found out later on, one of the reasons that I was readmitted is because that evening, after we locked up the folks from the Board of Trustees, and the calls started coming in from New York. This is Associated Press calling from New York. This is United Press International calling from Los Angeles. WNBC calling from New York City. You know, what's going on down there? What's going on? And I was the only one in our group that knew how to operate a switchboard. So I was sitting there on the switchboard, and it just so happened that Mr. Lassiter, who was the vice president of administration for the school the whole time, he was sitting right behind me with his arms just like this, you know. And I never went downstairs in the cafeteria and raided the steaks out of the kitchen, and wasn't profanity, and everybody that called, I'd say the same thing. We're going to have a press conference tomorrow. We have a press conference tomorrow. But just the way I handled myself, and Mr. Lassiter's secretary told me about 3 years after that, as I was getting ready to leave Tuskegee, she said, that's why Mr. Lassiter stuck up for you, the way you handled yourself that particular evening, you know. So I said all that to say this. I've always been interested in the right thing being done for my people, for us as a people, and what would it take for us to be treated better, you know. Maybe that's why I'm so disgusted with the president that we have now, because he's taken us so far back, you know, from whence we have come. So when I see an opportunity to be involved civically and be considered an artist, you know, so you see that big grin on my face, so I guess now I can say I'm an artist, you know, in that respect. So you asked, I took a long way to answer your question, but I hope I've answered your question, because that's what drove me to enjoy social justice and activism as art.
Bet on your tiny, tiny castle. Bet on your tiny, tiny dream. Bet on your tiny, tiny businesses. Bet on you. Bet on you.